Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into this segment. I'm sitting here with the amazing Alex Greenwald, who is the Center Director at Pathways Community Center, located here in Rock Hill, South Carolina. But they actually serve the entire York County population. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Tadian. I'm so excited to talk with you and share a little bit more.
Thank you. I'm so glad you decided to be here. So, for those who may not know me, again, as Alex stated, my name is Tadian Page, and I'm the owner of Ascend Solutions, which is where we produce change by providing coping solutions. So, we work with nonprofits such as Pathways, small businesses to help them deepen, define, and drive their community engagement and social impact initiatives so that you, the community, can further engage with those missions to create more change within our world. So Pathways is an organization that I've been grateful and blessed to work with over the past 2 years to really help them further put their mission into the community so that you can engage with that mission to help them do their work on a daily basis. So Alex, so for those who may not be familiar with Pathways, what Pathways is, what you do. Can you tell us a little bit more about what Pathways is and the mission you all have at Pathways Community Center?
Sure. So, Pathways Community Center, we are a place where folks that are finding themselves in poverty and they might be homeless, we're a place for them to come and get themselves healthy, get them on the right path towards stability, whether that's mental, physical stability, and get them towards self-sufficiency. Ultimately, when somebody's struggling through poverty or homelessness, they don't have that stable roof over their head. And there's so many factors that play a role. So at Pathways, when they walk through our doors, we're here to assess them and do a referral warm handoff where we can walk them down our hallways through our 40,000 foot building and connect them with the 14 campus agencies we have here on site. And those agencies are the movers and shakers providing the life-changing services to get them self-sufficient so we can get them a roof over their head.
That's awesome. So again, giving context, breaking it down for people, right? I'm so close to it, so I understand it. But for your average person, if I was someone in need, whether that's zero or just low income, when I come into Pathways, you all will work with me to understand my needs, and then you don't provide the services, but you connect me with a service provider on your campus, right?
Absolutely.
And you
Yep.
said you have 14 different agencies across your campus, and those agencies look like what? What type of services do they provide?
So we call it the continuum of care. And really what that is it goes from the immediate critical services that somebody may need. If you're homeless, you're coming off the streets, you immediately need some food, some clothing, and getting into emergency shelters. So we're lucky to have our partners like Bethel Men's Emergency Shelter. We partner with the Women's Lifehouse Emergency Shelter. But while that process is taking place as they come through, they need somewhere to stay during the day. So one of the services on site at Pathways is the Bethel Day Shelter, where folks can get laundry, they can take a warm shower, and they can store their belongings in a locker system. And it's just a place for them to rest during the day. While they have that ability to rest and take care and clean themselves up, there's all these other services on the campus that help them get benefits like health insurance, getting documentation, whether that's Social Security, their driver's license, things like that you need to even apply to get a job or apply to get into a housing program. And then we have our food pantries on site, our soup kitchens, life skills development for women specifically, veteran specific programs, counseling for mental health and substance abuse, and the list goes on. But those are really the crucial services that we see when somebody walks through our doors. That's the critical things that need to happen when they come through.
Yeah. So let's talk about that model for a second, right? Because when I hear that, it essentially sounds like a co-work space in my head, or this community that seeks to have all of the resources, support that you need in one central location for people, right? So oftentimes when I think about Pathways, I say it's the one-stop shop for our zero to low income populations to get all the help they need in one central place. Why is that piece so important or vital to being able to assist them in their lives?
Oh my goodness. So having something all under one roof for the most part, the critical services under one roof, breaks down that barrier of transportation. It improves accessibility to our clients who already struggle to have any form of transportation like a car, or some of them don't even have access to a bicycle. And so to have the My Ride free bus system right on our property for them to get off the free bus and come to Pathways every day to get themselves better is crucial. And it breaks down those barriers to accessibility.
Yeah. So for those who may not be, right, a volunteer at Pathways, or may not know much about homelessness, or may not have found themselves within that situation, there's a quote that I love, and it says, "As we seek to understand the humanity of others, we get that much closer to that of our own. As we seek to understand the humanity of others, we get that much closer to that of our own." You know, I love a good quote, Alex.
I know. And it really resonates, Katie, and it does.
I love that quote so much, because that's essentially what has happened through my work with Pathways. I'm there to provide a service, but I'm being served through that experience to grow and learn and understand and gain context around the homelessness around our community and around the entire York County. So again, so for those who may not be as close to this work, can you paint the picture around what homelessness looks like in York County? Is it even a thing? I talk to a lot of people a lot. They're like, I never knew we had homeless people in Rock Hill, right? Can you paint the picture for someone listening who doesn't have that context that you get to see, live, breathe, eat, sleep, and go home with every single day?
A lot of the times I hear, well, it's not my problem. You know, we don't have that here. And to paint the picture, we do have it here. We have it in York County as a whole, not just in Rock Hill. And it's our problem. It's a community-wide problem. And what we're seeing is, as the growth continues to boom, whether that's Rock Hill right now with all the economic and business opportunities growing and the Carolina Panthers coming, it's driving in more and more people. And as you look at Fort Mill and Tigakay areas, the growth that's happening there, and even out in Clover and our rural areas such as York, they're seeing growth too. So when growth is happening in the economy of our cities and our county as a whole, it's driving more people in. But that increases cost of living, it increases the job wages. And so as folks come in and they don't hit some of these criterias, they start to struggle and find themselves in poverty. So what we're currently seeing as a landscape in York County, we're not only seeing our own local population that's born and raised and lived in this area for their whole life in the cycle of poverty and finding that they're losing the roof over their head, whether landlords are increasing rent or they're not able through their job to pay for their mortgage, they're losing that roof over their head. We're also seeing folks coming from out of the area, whether that's the Charlotte region or other parts of the state of South Carolina, coming to York County because of the opportunities that are developing. And maybe they come here on a whim and something falls short and they have nothing to fall back on. They're falling themselves into the homeless trap as well. So we are seeing an increase over the past few years as numbers trend upward of folks that are at imminent risk of homelessness, meaning they're about to lose that roof over their head, and those that are absolutely homeless and they find themselves in an uninhabitable area of the community, whether that's the woods or parks or under a bridge, and those folks are considered unsheltered.
Yeah, you bring up some great points that I want to touch on. Thank you for that context. You know, two things I wanted to mention, and we talked about this before. When we think about that, let's think about minimum wage. Right now, South Carolina's minimum wage is $7.25, $7.25. It has been that way since about 2009, if I'm not mistaken. Meanwhile, we're dealing with inflation at about 3% every single year. So you're talking about a 12-year difference with your money being the same, but you're talking about a 3% over 12 years being increased for you in terms of expenses. There's no way that the two can equal up or add up, right? So when we look at the scope of that, it's not just about you being a bad person, these myths that we hear a lot of, these stereotypes or these things that are all your fault that happen to you that cause you or land you into homelessness, more than life itself happening and the way that our world is set up. And those are a lot of the people that we serve. And I want to end with one particular scenario in particular. I talked to you about a family I met a few weeks ago who are living in the woods, right? Have been living in the woods for 6 months now. Married couple, ex-military, ex-Marine at that, has been in the wood for 6 months simply because he lost his job due to COVID and cannot continue to sustain their lifestyle after not having a job for 6 months. Right? So again, it's not these situations, even though it's inclusive of that, it's not solely the things that come to our mind often when we think of homelessness or this image of homelessness. We use a lot of language around how do we humanize the experience of our homeless population or our zero to low income, because many of Americans, over 50% of Americans are $400 away, right, from not being able to cover all of their expenses. If one thing happens that costs more than $400, many Americans will be in a position of poverty.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Tadian, I know that when folks hear that story that you shared, we understand the empathy and we get it, but not everybody else does. And I can hear people saying, well, that person and his family that was in the woods, 6 months, they should be able to get out of that situation. But let's add the factors of mental health. When you lose everything, the trauma, PTSD, depression, anxiety, all of that. And when you find yourselves in that situation, I ask you, how would you cope with that? What's your coping mechanism? When you're in an environment that is around you and you have other people struggling, they're going through mental health, maybe drugs and alcohol is more prevalent in that area, how would you cope with that? How would you keep your bones warm at night in this cold weather? And so there's a lot of factors that play a role, that it's not just easy to get folks out of the woods and the situation. There's so much that plays a role into the homelessness. And oftentimes, if it's not because of loss of job from COVID, it's from divorce. It's from losing a loved one, losing a parent, and they just can't cope with that. And it spiraled them down to where they're at. So always keep that in mind, and it helps break those stigmas down for our folks that just don't work with the homeless day to day.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that in. Again, humanizing the lived experience. So back to my quote, as we seek to understand the humanity of others, we get that much closer to that of our own. And I think that's so true. It's such a powerful message. So again, I didn't want to make this too long. You and I can go at it all day long because we are committed to this work of bettering not only our community, but our world by showing up for those in need. And not only thinking about that in terms of charity, but how do we solve the issues that even lead us to homelessness?
Yeah.
Right? Living situations, affordability, wages, mental health, all of those bigger systems that we need to consider at the legislative on down levels are the levels of the work that we need to commit to. But for your everyday citizen who's listening to this, for your community member who feels moved by what you're sharing right now, how can they learn more about Pathways? How can they engage with this wording, in this work, and move them into action? How can they learn more about Pathways and connect?
Well, it's so easy. They can go straight to our website, which is pathwaysyc.org, and to learn more about all the work that's being done and to hear more about the 14 and growing campus agencies we have on our property, all the amazing life-changing work they're doing. And we have a button that's so easy to click on the website that says volunteer. And we have options for individuals that might just want to volunteer their time to serve groceries at the Manna House food pantry, or maybe they want to serve at the soup kitchen or help connect with clients and build fellowship with them at our day shelter. There's so many options. And we even include options for groups, whether that's a big church group, getting youth involved at a school. I get a lot of athletes that are looking as a group to come together and give back to our community. So go to our website to learn more, and we encourage you, reach out. Educating yourself is the number one thing to help make a big change and advocate for greater good. But just being aware and educating yourself is the first step.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. And we use a lot of language. We say that there is a multitude of ways that you can serve and help at Pathways, through your time as a volunteer, right? Through your thoughts, whether that's your prayers, through your talent, showing up how you can within your skill sets. And lastly, but also important, your treasure, right? If you have an extra $1 a month that you can donate to Pathways, right? That makes a difference. If you have an extra $5, $20, $500 $1,000, whatever that number is, you can also donate at that same website as well. So I am an investor into the work of Pathways through my time, my talent, my treasure, and my thoughts. And I encourage you to join me on that path as well, however you can within your own capacity. Nothing is too small. Nothing is too small. Everything is appreciated. So Alex, thank you for the amazing work that you, your staff, and the board of Pathways is doing to better and impact the lives of those within our community, maybe zero to low income populations. Again, visit pathwaysyc.org to learn more about this amazing organization and to see how you can get involved in moving our community forward as well. Thank you.
Thank you.